How your first car marks you for life. There's a moment that happens with your first car, not the moment you buy it, not even the first time you drive it alone. It's quieter than that, more subtle. It's the moment you realize that this machine, this collection of metal and rubber and questionable reliability has somehow become part of who you are. Maybe it's 3 months in when you automatically reach for the radio knob that only works if you turn it counterclockwise. Maybe it's the first time someone asks for a ride and you feel a strange mix of pride and protectiveness. Or maybe it's the day it breaks down and you feel genuinely heartbroken, like you've failed a friend. Whatever the moment, it marks you. Because your first car doesn't just teach you how to drive. It teaches you how to love something imperfect, how to take responsibility for something beyond yourself, how to find freedom in the most mundane machines. And those lessons, once learned, never really leave you. Chapter 1. The Imprinting. Your first car is never the car you really want. It's the car you can afford, the car your parents approve of, the car that happens to be available when you finally have a license and enough money scraped together. But that's exactly what makes it perfect for the job it needs to do. Because your first car isn't about status or performance. It's about possibility, about the radical shift from being a passenger in your own life to being the driver. About learning that freedom isn't free. It requires insurance and gas money, and understanding why that check engine light keeps coming on. In those early days, weeks, months of ownership, something profound happens. You start to see the world differently. Every scratch becomes personal. Every mechanical problem becomes a challenge you have to solve. The car stops being a thing you own and becomes a thing that owns a piece of you. This is imprinting, like a baby bird following the first moving thing it sees. You're learning what it means to have a relationship with a machine. And that first relationship sets the template for every car that comes after. Chapter 2. The education you didn't know you were getting. Your first car is a teacher, and it's teaching you lessons you don't realize you're learning. Patience when it won't start on cold mornings. Problem solving when something rattles and you have to figure out if it's serious. Acceptance when you realize that perfection is expensive and you're not rich. You learn that maintenance isn't optional, that ignoring problems doesn't make them go away. You develop mechanical sympathy out of necessity, not because you're naturally gifted, but because you can't afford not to pay attention. The car teaches you about compromise, about making the best of what you have instead of waiting for what you want. About finding joy in small improvements, new speakers that actually work, a successful oil change you did yourself, a weekend trip without breakdowns. Most importantly, your first car teaches you that love isn't about perfection. It's about commitment, understanding, and finding ways to work together despite fundamental incompatibilities. Chapter 3. The Identity Formation. Your first car becomes part of your identity in ways you don't expect. It's how friends recognize you from across the parking lot. It's what you drive to job interviews and first dates. It's your mobile representation of self, whether you intended it that way or not. And because it's your first, because you don't have experience with alternatives, you start to think this is just how cars are, the way the door handle feels, the particular angle you need to hold the key, the exact amount of pressure required for the brakes to feel right. These details become your baseline for normal. Every car after this one will be measured against these standards, these habits, these unconscious expectations. Your driving style develops around this car's capabilities and limitations. If it's slow, you learn patience. If it's unpredictable, you develop quick reflexes. Years later, when you're driving something objectively better, you'll still catch yourself comparing it to that first car, not because the first one was superior, but because it was formative. Chapter 4: The Ghost in Every Machine. Here's what nobody tells you about your first car. It haunts every car you own after it. Not in a bad way, but in the way that first love haunts every relationship that follows. It sets the standard for what feels normal, what feels right, what feels like home. You'll find yourself looking for that same feeling in every subsequent car, that sense of partnership, of understanding, of being exactly where you belong. The ghost of your first car lives in your muscle memory, in the way you adjust mirrors, in how you hold the steering wheel, in the unconscious timing of your gear changes. It shows up in the things you prioritize when shopping for cars, the features you consider essential, the compromises you're willing to make. Your first car's weaknesses become the things you watch out for. Its strengths become the things you seek. And sometimes, decades later, you'll see one just like it on the street. Same color, same year, maybe even the same dent. And for a moment, you'll remember exactly what it felt like to be that person, driving that car, learning those lessons for the first time. Chapter 5: Why It Matters. Your first car matters because it teaches you that relationships with objects can be meaningful, that taking care of something can be its own reward, that imperfection doesn't disqualify something from being loved. In a world that treats everything as disposable, your first car taught you about commitment, about working through problems instead of walking away, about finding value in things that aren't valuable to anyone else. It taught you that freedom comes with responsibility, that independence requires competence, that the things we love most are often the things that challenge us, frustrate us, and ultimately change us. Your first car was your introduction to a lifetime of relationships with machines. It set your expectations for what that relationship could be. And maybe most importantly, it taught you that cars aren't just transportation. They're partners in the ongoing project of becoming who you're meant to be. So when you see someone struggling with their first car, frustrated by its quirks, overwhelmed by its demands, remember that they're not just learning to drive. They're learning to love something imperfect, learning to be responsible for something beyond themselves, learning lessons that will echo through every car they ever own. They're being marked for life, and that's exactly as it should be.